What is going on, everybody? My name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we will be hopping into my top 10 rookie running backs for the 2023 fantasy football season. If you guys do enjoy today's content or find it helpful, I would greatly appreciate if you guys hit that like button down below and consider subscribing to the channel. We put out free fantasy football content year-round, redraft, dynasty, and best ball content. So if you guys enjoy that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And please feel free to drop any comments pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Without further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's hop right into our top 10 rookie running backs for the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, we're not going to spend too much time on number 1 overall, which has to be Bijan Robinson, who lands with the Atlanta Falcons. Clearly the best running back coming out of this entire draft class, and probably the best running back to come out of any draft class in quite some time. An absolute monster on the field. You guys can look at any collegiate tape from Bijan Robinson, and last year was nearly perfection at the running back position. Over 1,500 rushing yards, 314 receiving yards, and 18 total touchdowns. The year before that, over 1,100 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, and just under 300 receiving yards. A very, very productive collegiate career. We know what Bijan is. We've talked about him all offseason long. He will probably go at the end of the first, beginning of the second in your dynasty startup drafts. He will probably go at the very beginning of your rookie drafts for dynasty leagues, and he should be a top 5, top 6 selection in redraft formats this coming season. He is hands down across any rankings out there going to be your number 1 rookie running back headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, next up on the list, we've got Jahmyr Gibbs, who lands with the Detroit Lions. At first, a little bit of a confusing landing spot, but apparently there's a ton of interest in Jahmyr Gibbs across the NFL. So the Lions went out and got their guy. Can't fault them for that. Borrowed a little bit of draft capital for later on by trading running back DeAndre Swift. So we've still got David Montgomery on this team, but I really do believe as the season moves along, Jahmyr Gibbs will fall into the number 1 running back position for the Lions, a team behind Dan Campbell who wants to run the football quite a bit. We saw that last season between Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. But the intriguing thing about Jahmyr Gibbs, especially for those of you who play in full PPR, is that he is great in terms of catching the football. At least 36 or more receptions in his last 2 seasons, and at least 440 receiving yards in his last 2 seasons as well. Not only can he get it done on the ground 110%, but he gets it done through the air as well. His general comp out there has been Alvin Kamara. When you watch his collegiate tape, it's a perfect comp in my opinion. I think he's going to bring a different aspect to the Lions offense that has just been missing. He'll essentially be taking over DeAndre Swift's role, but hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy. There's really no disputing Gibbs has to be our number 2 overall rookie running back headed in to the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, 3rd overall might surprise some of you guys, but I've got Devon Achane, who lands with the Miami Dolphins. If you guys have been tuning in to our live streams, you guys know that I'm a huge fan of Achane with this landing spot to the Dolphins. I think he is the perfect complementary piece to what the Dolphins want to do offensively. He is lightning fast. We're in a 4.32 second 40. He had 36 breakaway runs of 15 yards or more over the last 2 seasons. Just go look at his tape. He is electric. He is so fast. It's just such an incredible player to watch overall. So I love Achane landing with the Dolphins. I think they will be able to utilize his skill set perfectly. I get that Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are there, but I really believe as the season goes on, Achane is going to be a huge factor and will definitely have a productive enough rookie season to where he is fantasy relevant. 1,100 rushing yards in his senior year and 8 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Just a very productive player over the last 2 seasons in college. I love Devon Achane. Like I said, it might be a little high for some of you guys. Let me know in the comments down below. But he comes in overall as my rookie RB3 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, 4th overall, I've got Zach Charbonnet, who lands with the Seattle Seahawks, a very polarizing draft selection for the Seahawks with Kenneth Walker already being in that backfield, which I know has raised a lot of fantasy managers' concern. But I like Charbonnet. I do believe over time, the Seahawks will be able to establish a split between Walker and Charbs that is beneficial for fantasy football, similar to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt when they were at their most productive times, or maybe A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Overall, Charbs is just way too good of a prospect, way too good of a player for us to discredit him any further back than number 4. If he went to a better team in terms of a backfield where he would step into a more immediate role, he'd be at number 3, no doubt about it in my mind. But when we look at Charbs over the last 2 seasons, at least 1,100 rushing yards and at least 13 touchdowns in both seasons. A very productive player in his time at UCLA. I'm a huge fan of Charbs. There's just no way I can't rank him as my rookie RB4 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. At number 5 overall, I've got Kendre Miller, who lands with the New Orleans Saints. At the moment, a relatively crowded backfield, don't get me wrong. We've got Alvin Kamara's legal situation in looms. We're not really sure what his season's going to look like. And then we've got the addition of Jamal Williams to this backfield as well. Over time, I do think that Miller can carve out a significant role within this offense, and just the upside that he brings to the table makes him a valuable player to consider. But like I said, I get it. It's a little bit crowded there. But when we look at Miller's collegiate career in his senior season, just under 1,400 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground, 16 receptions for 116 receiving yards. When you look at his tape, I mean, he's literally somewhere in between Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara in terms of his play style. I really like Miller, another player who, if he went to a team where he was coming into a more immediate role, then we'd definitely be higher on him. But I think he is appropriately ranked as our number 5 rookie running back headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, I will admit, as we move into our RB6, which is Roschon Johnson, who lands with the Chicago Bears, there's a little bit of a tier break here because now we're really looking at running backs who are very good prospects, but may have to seriously fight for a starting role. So I will say for the next couple of running backs, I am looking at the highest likelihood of those running backs to win a starting role on their team. So when we look at Roschon Johnson, we look at the backfield for the Bears, you've got Khalil Herbert, you've got D'Onta Foreman on this team. Herbert, I think, is definitely going to be utilized within the passing game, and then Foreman is still a good third down back, a productive back in his time with Carolina, so I think he could definitely get some volume as well. But Roschon Johnson, he was definitely overshadowed by our RB1, Bijan Robinson, and we talked about throughout his career, still found a way to be very productive. If you look at his last 2 seasons, at least 540 rushing yards and at least 5 touchdowns in both of those seasons. And that was with Bijan Robinson in front of him. So he definitely went where he went in the draft because NFL teams and scouts were looking at his running style and just could not pass up on Roschon Johnson. I do think he's in a position where he could carve out enough volume in a Bears offense that is taking steps forward altogether with Justin Fields at the quarterback position, that I think he deserves to come in as our rookie RB number 6 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. At number 7 overall, I've got Tyjae Spears, who lands with the Tennessee Titans. This is definitely an interesting player to look at because you have to ask yourself the question, do you truly believe Derrick Henry is leaving the Tennessee Titans, or do you believe he is staying put? If he's leaving, that's very good for Tyjae Spears. If he's staying, it's definitely not as good, but I do think that Spears is literally the perfect complementary piece to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a downhill runner, physical. I mean, we know what Henry brings to the table, right? Spears, on the other hand, is very shifty, very dangerous in the open field, very good at causing missed tackles. Over 1,500 rushing yards in his senior season and 19 touchdowns on the ground, as well as 251 receiving yards. I think he could be a great piece to the Tennessee Titans offense, even if Derrick Henry is staying put. But if Henry is out, I think that Spears will make a pretty immediate impact. So for that reason, I'm putting him as my rookie RB number 7 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 8 overall, I've got Chase Brown. Once again, looking at a team where we don't know exactly what's going on with their starting running back. We don't know if Joe Mixon is staying with the Bengals, if he's going to be elsewhere. He's also got some legal issues looming over him. So either way, I think that Chase Brown could definitely be productive with the Bengals sooner rather than later. Total of 83 forced missed tackles. That is just second behind in this entire running back class, only behind Bijan Robinson. Chase Brown, a true workhorse back, over 1,600 rushing yards in his senior year and 10 touchdowns on the ground. 2021, over 1,000 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Ultimately, just an old school runner, not the best at catching the football, had some fumbling issues as well throughout college, but overall, I think even if Mixon's there, Chase Brown will be a great RB2 who has moments like Samaje Perine does. And if not, I do think he can be a workhorse back for the Bengals. So he comes in as my rookie RB8 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. Number 9 overall, I've got Tank Bigsby, who lands with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Don't get me wrong, I definitely believe that Travis Etienne is going to continue to be the feature back for the Jaguars. But when we look at Bigsby's tape and his stats throughout his collegiate career, extremely productive his entire career. I mean, he had at least 800 rushing yards every season throughout college and at least 5 rushing touchdowns. But when we look at the last 2 seasons, at least 970 yards on the ground and 10 touchdowns in both of those seasons. Just a very productive player. He's a very shifty running back overall. I think he will be a nice complementary piece to Travis Etienne. Plus, when we look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, overall, this offense is just continuing to take strides forward. So I think that Bigsby will be part of a productive offense, which is always good as well. So he comes in as my rookie running back number 9 as we approach the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 10 overall, I've got Zach Evans, who lands with the Rams. Number 10 was a little bit hard for me. I think Evan Hull could have a nice role with the Colts, kind of replacing Naheem Hines, but Jonathan Taylor is still there. I do think over time, DeWayne McBride, who landing with the Vikings, could have an opportunity to come into a nice role. We've got Izzy going to the Jets. There's just a lot of players in front of him. We've also got Deuce Vaughn, who lands with the Cowboys and could carve out a nice role behind Tony Pollard, but we don't really know if Zeke's going back to that team. So overall, number 10 was difficult for me to select, but I'm going to go with Zach Evans because of the injury history to Cam Akers and the fact that over time, Sean McVay has shown he likes to utilize more than one running back. Zach Evans, overall, 930 rushing yards in his senior season, 9 touchdowns on the ground, averaged 6.9 yards per carry over his collegiate career. Overall, I just think he's a running back who's in a position to at least compete for a role on his respective roster. Over time, if anything happens to Cam Akers this season, or if Sean McVay just decides he's going to switch things up at the running back position, which, like I said, he's shown he will do from time to time, I think that Evans could carve out a significant enough role where he shows some fantasy value, but I don't exactly know how consistent it's going to be. Overall, he comes in as my rookie running back number 10 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. And that'll do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy the content today, I would greatly appreciate you guys consider hitting that subscribe button down below. We put out free fantasy football content all year round, Dynasty, Redraft, and Best Ball formats. And please consider hitting that like button on the way out, as it truly does help out the video. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season, please feel free to drop those down below as well. And of course, let me know who is your favorite rookie running back headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. With that, I will say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.